class today is, what, 25th? Is that right? Yes. 25th of September, 2025, in Bahrain. Balaram Balaram's place, huh? Is that because you have Krishna Balaram on the central altar?
No, after the name the Lord came.
After the name the Lord came?
Yeah.
Really? Uh-huh. I wonder, in what sense is this Balaram's place? And this is going to be our fourth class, our last class in the series of material and spiritual balance. Can you all see the screen? Everybody can see?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So, I'd like you to just, everybody's good? Is there a problem? Okay. So I'd like us all to just relax. Just take a nice slow breath, just relax. It's now 8:16 at night. I'd like you to go backwards through the day in half an hour increments. So from 8:15, 7:45, like that. We can do it from 8, starting from 8 to like 7:30. And what were you thinking about? So just relax and think about, what was I thinking about? Going all the way back to when you woke up in the morning. Okay. So I just, right now, this is just for you to think about yourself. I'm not asking you to raise your hands or anything. But so during this time, maybe we were thinking about food or money. So I'd like you to just to yourself, think about how much, what like percentage of that time was I thinking about food or about money, about basic bodily maintenance. What percentage of that time was I thinking about relationships in this world? With family, with coworkers, with friends, how to deal with them, how to take care of things. What percentage of that time was I thinking about some decisions that I was making? Should I live here? Should I live there? Should I study here or there? Where should my child go to school? Should I get married? Should I have another child? Should I start my own business? Different decisions. How much of your time was spent thinking like that? How much of your time was spent in concern about some suffering you're going through, or maybe some suffering that a friend of yours or a family member is going through? And how much percentage were we thinking directly about Krishna and Krishna's pure devotees? So I think for many of us, we'd have to say that our minds are out of order. They're stuck in reverse. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, "My mind is not a Vaishnava." So we're going to go over some ways that even in our normal daily life, we can think of Krishna. So a very interesting quote, this is from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 9. Prabhupada says, "A man working in Krishna consciousness in a factory does not associate himself with the work of the factory, nor with the workers of the factory. He simply works for Krishna. And when he gives up the result for Krishna, he is acting transcendentally. So how do you work for Krishna in a factory? Prabhupada is saying giving up the result. And often we think that means just using the money in some way. Whenever we work, we get money. What am I going to do with the money? How am I going to use this money for Krishna? And we often think that the only way we can work for Krishna is if I'm using some of the money for Krishna. Now we should definitely use some of our money for Krishna. And even if you have an altar in your home, then you're using some of that money for Krishna. If you think my home is Krishna's home instead of my home. But also every moment of that work should be for Krishna. And we talked about this a little bit the other day, that seeing the world as a place of service and always seeing ourselves as a servant, that one of the ways to do that is to be working according to our nature. When I work according to my nature, then I naturally have a service in the universal body of God. One of my favorite quotes, and one that I find is very mysterious. This is from Bhagavad Gita 12:2 purport. Prabhupada says, sometimes he chants, sometimes he hears or reads books about Krishna, or sometimes he cooks prasadam, or goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna, or sometimes he washes the temple or the dishes. Whatever he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. Such action is in full samadhi. All right, we think about what is samadhi. Remember Shaunaka Rishi was in samadhi? And Maharaj Pariksit, he was very tired and hungry and thirsty. And he enters Shaunaka Rishi's hut. And my guess is, because Pariksit was the emperor, that he was a little demanding. That's my guess. I don't know. I was not there. Or if I was there, I don't remember that lifetime. But Maharaj Pariksit probably he went in and like, hey, water. And Shaunaka Rishi didn't respond because he was in samadhi. So he didn't hear Pariksit. Because if you're going into samadhi, we think about the stages in Astanga Yoga. There's yam, niyam, right? Don't do bad things, do good things. Then you shift your breathing and your posture, because if you breathe and sit in a certain way, you will go into the parasympathetic nervous system will be activated. You'll go into a state of calm. And it's much more easy to go into a state of trance. Then there's pratyahara. Pratyahara means that you withdraw the senses from the outside world. It's something like deep sleep, except that you're awake and alert inside. But you lose all awareness of sensory input from the world. Are there some people back there that can't see? Maybe we could all shift slightly. Yeah, that's good. So you can maybe like move up. Oh, lovely. Thank you. So if you've removed your senses from the world, you don't hear anything, you don't see anything. Same thing happened with Daksha and Shiva. That Daksha walks past Shiva, who's his son-in-law, and Shiva doesn't stand up because he's in samadhi, and so he doesn't see Daksha. So if in samadhi you don't see anything and you don't hear anything, how are you going to be cooking? It will be a little dangerous. How are you going to go to the market in samadhi? That will also be very dangerous thing to do. Even cleaning. washing the pots. How are you going to wash the pots in samadhi? So what does this mean? See, often we think if I'm going to be absorbed in Krishna, it's going to be in that kind of samadhi, and I won't have be functional in the world. So if we think about the different types of yoga, any genuine religious or spiritual process is going to be using one of these types of yoga or some combination of them. And each of them have a different understanding of what is samadhi and how to attain it. So if we're going to look at dhyan yoga, meditative yoga, if we're going to look at dhyan yoga, so we talked about how do they attain samadhi. They attain samadhi through withdrawing the senses from their objects, going into deep trance, quieting the mind, and then realizing the Lord in the heart, the Paramatra, Isvara Sarvabhutanam Hridaya Arjuna Tiskati. Then there's Dhyan Yoga. Now, Dhyan Yoga has become very popular today, but most people don't do the Yam Niyam. If you don't do the Yam Niyam, then you're going to be in Tamagun, and you're not going to be able to go into a trance. And if this is a little side comment, if without doing the Yam Niyam, you try to do the pranayam, the asana, pratyahara, you can actually damage yourself mentally. And there are accounts of people doing meditation without qualification who actually end up with psychosis. Because they're trying to meditate while they're doing tamagun activities. So this is meditation's becoming popular, but people don't understand what is meditation. The other thing that's becoming more and more popular is Dhyan Yoga. Dhyan Yoga is where you just say, I am not. I am not the body. I am not the mind. I am not the emotions. I am not the thoughts. So this also system is becoming very, very popular. Both Dhyan Yoga and Gyan Yoga, unfortunately, in the world are becoming very popular with a Buddhist mood. Not even impersonalist, but voidist. I'm not, and what am I? I am nothing. But again, there's people who've written, best-selling books, selling millions of copies about how to practice Gyan Yoga. Where, a thought comes in your mind, and you're just like, it's just a thought. It's not me. I'm not my thoughts. I'm not going to believe my thoughts. I'm just going to let my thoughts and feelings flow through me. And then the mind becomes peaceful. And then one realizes the self as Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. And one may realize the Supreme Brahman. Okay, Karma Yoga. So most religions of the world... Do you need a chair? Do you need a chair? Yeah, is there a chair for her? Yeah, okay, good. Thank you. So Karma Yoga, most religions of the world have some aspect of Karma Yoga. This idea that I'm doing my work in the world for the purpose of purification, for the purpose of salvation, rather than for the purpose of enjoying the world. And as Krishna explains in the 12th chapter, when you're doing your work in this detached way, then you attain peace. And in that peacefulness, again, you can understand Aham Brahmasmi, and you can understand something generally a Brahman, sometimes Paramatma. Sometimes God is the Father, the witness, the friend, like that. So you'll notice that all three of these are involving detachment. Here I'm mechanically detaching my senses. Here I'm detaching from identification with my thoughts and emotions and physical sensations. Here I'm detaching from trying to enjoy my work. I'm offering at every moment my work. Now, Bhakti Yoga does use some form of all of these. In Bhakti Yoga, we do meditate on Krishna. We do practice detachment from our mind and senses. And we do dedicate our work to the Lord. So we're using some form of them. But it's quite different. The form we use in Bhakti Yoga is quite different than from just Karma Yoga or just Jnana Yoga or just Jnana Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is a yoga not of detachment really, but of attachment. It's a yoga of attachment. Of course, detachment is there. As I said, we have elements. We have something that looks something like this in Bhakti, but our primary method is attachment. So I've given this metaphor many, many times. So we have, I'm sure in Bahrain, they sell like chemical fake juice, right? Just recently I was on a flight. I think it was from Muscat to Salalah in Oman. And all they were serving was like water. And I said, do you have any juice? So they brought juice in a box. But when I looked at it, it was fake juice. It was water with sugar and colors. And they probably had a few drops of juice. So they could say, juicy juice drink or something like that. So let's say you have a cup full of this fake juice. We've all had fake juice? Yes. So let's say you have a cup of this fake juice. So in Dana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Karma Yoga, you're just pouring out the cup, and then you have an empty cup. Got that? Okay. So in Bhakti Yoga, you take some real juice. You don't have much fruit that grows around here except for dates. So you'll have to imagine you're back in India. So let's say you're back in India and it's mango season, and someone gave you some chemical mango fake juice, and you go and pick some mangoes, tree ripened, right off the tree, maybe your backyard down the street, and you make some real mango juice. And then you start pouring the real mango juice into your cup. You just keep pouring. What's going to happen? Gradually the percentage is going to change, right? As I'm pouring, at first when I'm pouring it's going to be 90% fake juice, 10% real juice. And as I keep pouring, the fake juice is going to go out of the cup, and eventually it's going to be all real juice, and I will never have to have had an empty cup. In Bhakti, you never have an empty cup. So this is why Krishna, when Arjuna says to Krishna in the beginning of the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says, should I first become detached and realize the self and Brahman, and then take up bhakti? Or should I take up bhakti immediately? Krishna says, take up bhakti immediately. He says, Klesho dika tarastesham, avyakta shakti tejasam, avyaktir higatir dukam, yenavadvir avapite. He says, if you try to just become detached, that is very difficult. It's very difficult to have your cup empty. You follow? We want pleasure. We want relationships. So bhakti, we do it through attachment. We're doing it to attachment. And what samadhi means in bhakti is that I'm absorbed not just in Brahman and Paramatma, I'm absorbed in Bhagavan. I'm absorbed in the Lord's form, qualities, pastimes, etc. So this absorption is shown in the Kaliya Lila, where Krishna is in the coils of Kaliya. And the residents of Vrindavan, they're practically dying due to attachment. Prabhupada writes, out of their great affection for Krishna and being unaware of the extent of his potencies, they become overwhelmed with grief and anxiety. Because they had nothing dearer than Krishna, and because they had dedicated their everything, life, property, affection, mind, and activities to Krishna. We naturally become absorbed in a type of samadhi wherever we have an attachment. Just like so many of you are sitting in this room, but I'm sure that some of you are not really here. Sometimes people, they're in the class, but you see the whole time they're like this. They're not here. Physically they're here. Mentally they're somewhere else. And even if you don't get out your little distraction box, we have a little distraction box in our mind. Let's say you have something you're really worried about. You know, you're waiting for a biopsy report from the doctor. Or you heard your mother's sick back in India. Or you thought your child was going to study in America and now they have to pay $100,000 to get a visa. And now you don't know where they're going to get a job. So maybe you have some anxiety like that. So you're sitting here in the class and all you're thinking about is that. You're not here. Or it could be something positive. Maybe you're going to go to Vrindavan for Kartik and you're going to do this exciting thing, or your daughter's getting married in a week. And so you're thinking about that. And so you're absorbed in that. And so you're not here. You're actually there. So that's a kind of natural samadhi in terms of absorption. When we're doing work that's our nature and that we enjoy, we go into a kind of absorption like that, don't we? You're doing something you really love, and you're like, oh my goodness, look what time it is. Oh no, I missed prasadam. Right? We go into a kind of samadhi due to attachment. And our attachment is to whatever we feel is going to give us pleasure, or whatever we feel is going to get rid of pain. And if we become attached to Krishna, that Krishna is going to be the source of all of my happiness, Krishna is going to be the source of all my relief from distress, then I will naturally become absorbed in Krishna. So everything else that we're going to talk about, we're going to now talk about a lot of specifics, are predicated, they're based on the concept that we're working on an emotional attachment to Krishna. And my dear friends, if you're trying to do bhakti without developing an emotional attachment to Krishna, you are more or less wasting your time. It's going to take you a very, 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 very long Bhavanam Janmanam Ante kind of time. Because Krishna says the whole purpose of bhakti is to develop this attachment, to develop this desire, this ichcha, this desire for Krishna. So everything we're doing, we should try our best to do with some level of emotional investment, devotional service, not just service. And not just devotion either. Not just, oh, I love Krishna. What have you done for him? Nothing, I just love him. So we're not saying that, just sentimental devotion, but nor just empty service without devotion. So that's the basis of everything. So first of all, we can understand Krishna in his energy. When Srila Prabhupada was asked, how can I see God? He would almost always reply with, see God the way that he is telling you. See God in the taste of water, the light of the sun. And in fact, at the end of chapter 6, when Krishna says, Yogi namapi sarvesham madhviten antaratmana, bhajatam, what is it? Shradamam bhajate yomam samayuktatamo mataha. Right after that, where he says the best yogi is one who's always thinking of me, does he talk about, think of me playing my flute in Vrindavan? No, he says, rasoham apsukanteya. Right? So what does Krishna say? He says he's the heat in fire. That's pretty easy in Bahrain. It's usually hot. And heat is a sign of life. Heat is a sign of warmth. That Krishna is a loving, living personality. Whenever you feel heat, the light of the sun, where you get a lot of sunlight here as well. Not like London, where they get all excited if there's sunshine for a few hours. Krishna's the light of the sun. And of course, our bodies are actually primarily transformations of sunlight. We're eating plants, but even you're drinking milk and dairy. The cows ate the plants, transformed it into milk. And how are the plants getting their nutrition? From the sun. Then we're eating it. It becomes our bodies. Really, practically everything here on this planet is a transformation of sunlight. The sun lets us see, lets us understand, lets us function. And Krishna says, I am the light of the moon. The moon looks like a beautiful pearl in the sky, reflecting on the water, shimmering on the water, reminding us of Krishna's nighttime activities. Flower-bearing spring. So, of course, you don't really have a flower-bearing spring here, I don't think. But you have a lot of flowers, especially these plumerias, we call them in America. This is just how they make garlands in Hawaii. Exactly like this. Prabhupada would say that even if you don't study scriptures or have a guru, you can find God in the fragrance of a flower. And Krishna says he's the fragrance of the earth. So that's not only all the different scents of flowers. Amazing that all these flowers grow from the same earth and yet they have different fragrance. But it's also all the tastes of our food. Our food, again, coming from sunlight, water. Krishna says he's the taste in water. And the fragrance of the earth. So when you're tasting the different tastes, the aloo has its different taste, the capsicum has its different taste, the cheese has its different taste, the wheat has its different taste. All those different tastes, that's actually Krishna. He says, of purifiers I am the wind, because you're this little island. You get lots of wind here. And of course we hang our clothes out to dry and the wind makes them smell very nice. And if we have some musty room, we purify it with the wind. And ability. Krishna says, I am ability. So try wiggling your toes. Can you all wiggle your toes? How are you doing that? That's Krishna's giving you the ability to do that. So the way we can, easy way to always remember Krishna is he is my ability. Everything we're doing. We tend not to think about it. Oh yes, my hands just do what I want them to do. We don't think. I'm taking the cup, I'm drinking. But think. This ability to hold the cup, to see the cup, to know where it is, to put it down, to sit, to walk. That's Krishna. Krishna says he's the Supreme Father. Those of you who are fathers, and we all have fathers, we see so many fathers, how much the father, a good father, some fathers are not good fathers, but good fathers, how much they take care of the children's education, their safety, their nutrition, their friends, their toys, and expand that millions of times. But every time we see fathers, every time, if any of you who are fathers, anytime you're taking care of your children, anytime you're dealing with your own father, you think, oh, Krishna's the Supreme Father. He says that he's the sound in ether. So what sounds can we hear? AC, cutting in the kitchen. I like to meditate on this because it's so intellectually challenging. Like, how is the sound of the AC Krishna? So big machine sound. There's one lecture where Prabhupada says if you don't want to chant Hare Krishna, you can meditate on how Krishna is all the sounds in ether. But it's such an interesting thing to meditate on. Krishna is Om. Every day we're chanting Om. Krishna is religious romance. Whenever you see a married couple, they're respectful, they're loving, they care for each other, they're taking good care of the children, trying to raise the children in Krishna consciousness. That is Krishna. Krishna says 3 times that he's a seed. So we're eating so many seeds. Wheat, rice, lentils, beans. So many of our spices are also seeds. Please put your phones on silent. So practically all the cultures of the world have seeds as their main food, because that's the most densely nutritious part of the plant. So every time we're eating, Krishna says, I am the seed. But he also says I'm the seed in general. So he's the seed of our relationships, of our plans, of our desires, of our projects, everything. Krishna is the seed. He says he's a supreme friend. So we all have so many friends. That feeling of equality, that I have your back, you have my back, we care about each other. And Krishna is the supreme friend. He says he's the sacrifice. All the ways in which we connect with the Lord. He says he's the healing herb. Anytime we take medicine, even most modern medicine, is either derived from plants or is synthesized something that grows in the natural world. But you know what it's like when you feel sick and you take some medicine, you feel so much better, you're like, wow, that potency of medicine is Krishna. He's death and also immortality. Prabhupada says if you don't surrender to Krishna as a devotee, you have to surrender to death. And then there's all the little deaths. The death of a job, the death of a relationship, the death of an idea, the death of a project. But that's also Krishna. And whenever there's death, there's again birth. There's also immortality. It's always the beginning of something. Krishna says of all sacrifices, he is the chanting of the holy names. That we can chant loudly, we can chant quietly, we can chant in our mind. We can chant when we're clean, we can chant when we're dirty. We can chant in a temple room, we can chant lying in bed. We can chant in a bus, we can chant anywhere. And usually when you pray to the Lord, there's a system, you glorify the Lord, then you ask for benedictions, but chanting, you're just there with the Lord himself. You're just there with him. There's no protocol, there's no rules. He says of the beast, he is the lion, that when the lion roars, all the other animals run away. Like when Krishna speaks the truth in the Bhagavad Gita, the demons run away. He says of bodies of water, he is the ocean, he is the sea. So you all see the sea here regularly, correct? So the sea, it looks very plain, but actually it's very deep, very broad, and it's teeming with life. So Krishna may look very simple, oh, just simple cow herding boy. But he's very deep, very broad, and full of unlimited pastimes. And he has time. Whenever we look at our watch, we check the time on our phone. Whenever we're trying to save time or beat time or not waste time, and Krishna is time. Through all of our ups and downs with time, he is always there. So many things he says in the Bhagavad Gita. All of these I am verses in the Bhagavad Gita. We also have a number of verses in the Bhagavatam, especially Canto 2 and Canto 8, some in Canto 12, that's described like the clouds in the sky or the hairs on his head. The sunrise and sunset is the movement of Krishna's clothes, the yellow, golden yellow clothes, and you can see Krishna's dark blue form under his clothes. The trees are the hairs on his body. And Krishna opens and closes his eyes as day and night. The birds are his artistic sense. So we've made a book called Krishna Meditations. Some of you have this book. So this has a little meditation on each of these. Each of these Bhagavad Gita verses where Krishna says, I am. Each of these verses from the Bhagavatam that describes how the world is actually the form of the Lord. So every day one can say, let me take one of these and meditate on this today. Let me meditate today on how Krishna is the taste of water. Let me meditate on how Krishna is my ability. Let me meditate on how the clouds in the air are Krishna's hair. Then, of course, we can always meditate on Krishna by chanting his names. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And we may also have some favorite names of Krishna. Maybe we like the name Govinda or Nanda Nandana. Prabhupada said if we remember our name at the time of death, we can go back to Godhead. That's why we call each other by spiritual names. So we can also meditate on any name of Krishna. And we can meditate on any form of Krishna. So you may have a favorite form. There may be some deity form that you particularly like. Or maybe there's some painting of Krishna that you particularly like. And Prabhupada would say this all the time. That we're worshiping the deity. What is the difficulty to remember the form of the deity during the day? Yes? And you can choose like different paintings, different deity forms that you meditate on at different times. Those of you who have the opportunity to actually serve the deity and dress the deity. Like where my daughter lives, she dresses the deity, the local temple deities regularly. And she says it's always a 3-day meditation. So the day before I dress them, I'm picking out the outfit, picking out the jewelry, making the garlands. Then the day I'm dressing them, I'm absorbed. And then the next day, I'm remembering it. Yes, and the idea of our having an altar in our home, you have pictures or you have some deity, is so we're absorbed in that. Don't make it a ritual. Okay, I got to do my puja today. Okay, great, going to work. But actually a meditation, where during the day you can meditate on the form of your beloved Lord. And then we can remember Krishna's qualities. How he's Bhaktavatsal, he's saving Parikshit in the womb. He's very dependable. Draupadi just calls out, "Hey Govinda," and he comes. And he's so soft and delicate. Right? His body is so soft. If he just touches a leaf, his body will change color. So Krishna has, of course, unlimited qualities, but Srila Rupa Goswami gives us 64 qualities. And these are qualities we can also remember in our life. Just like one of these qualities is all honorable. So the little story that Srila Rupa Goswami gives about all honorable is that the demigods have to be in the waiting room to see Krishna. Just like if you're going to go see maybe a doctor or an advocate, a lawyer, or some government official, often you have to wait, correct? If you have to wait to see somebody, that means they're of a higher status than you are. So the demigods are waiting to see Krishna, and Krishna's secretary comes out and says, Varuna, Krishna's too busy today. Sorry you came, but he's not going to be able to keep his appointment. Come back another day. Hey, Indra, would you stop saying your prayers so loudly? You're bothering everybody in the waiting room. Lord Shiva, Krishna's going to be a while. He's running a little late. You're just going to have to stay here and chill out for a while. And Lord Brahma, you too. You got to wait for a while. So that's the story Srila Rupa Goswami says. Obviously not quite in those words. So this is something we can remember wherever we're waiting. Do you ever call customer service? Yes, how can I help you? All right, can I put you on hold? And we're waiting. And you can think, Krishna is all honorable. He makes people wait. Anytime you have to wait for something. Or Krishna also can speak all the languages. So how many of you know 2 languages? How many know 2 languages? 3. How many of you know 3 languages? How many of you know 4 languages? 5. 6. Wow, very nice. So in some of my classes, we're having translation, right? So some of my classes we're doing simultaneous translation. And I'm sure all of you go back and forth between languages, correct? Yes? So you're speaking Hindi, then you're speaking English, then you're speaking Bengali, then you're speaking Marathi, right? You can sometimes in the space of 5 minutes, you're speaking 3-4 languages. Am I correct? And you remember Krishna. Krishna can simultaneously speak all the languages. It's a very easy thing to remember here in Bahrain because most people speak many languages. And most people are switching. It's so interesting. I'm talking to someone in English, 2 seconds later they're talking to someone else in Hindi, then 2 seconds later they're talking to someone else in Marathi. I think, Krishna can do that. And he doesn't have to switch. He's simultaneously speaking Marathi and Bengali and Hindi and English all the time. So you remember that Krishna has this quality. And whenever you see anything beautiful, see some beautiful flowers, a beautiful person, Krishna is the most beautiful. Uncountable universes generating from his body. You see children blowing bubbles or seeds blowing in the wind, or even some store that has franchises. Same store over and over again. Krishna is generating not just stores over and over again, but so many universes. So many things in your life can remind you of Krishna's qualities. And then Krishna's pastimes. Prabhupada says if we can remember even one of Krishna's pastimes, we will become perfect. So I have some favorite pastimes. So I always wanted to see the Varaha Lila. So did they show the Nasinga movie here in Bahrain?
Yes.
How many of you saw that movie? Most of you, okay. So my favorite part was Varaha with Bhumi. That was my favorite part. I loved how they showed Bhumi Devi. And then I loved how they showed Varaha looking for Bhumi by smell, because in the Bhagavatam it says that Varaha found Bhumi by, and they showed him moving his nose. That was so cool. And then they showed him, because Prabhupada talks about he had to be Varaha. I hope I get this mudra right, yes? Did I get this right? Uh-huh. So he comes as Varaha and he's digging up to find Bhumi. I always wanted to see that. So finally I kind of saw it in the movie. I've always wanted to see the fight between Karna and Arjuna. I don't think I want to be I don't think I want to be a warrior, but maybe like a bug on the chariot or something. I don't know. But I think it's just such an amazing Leela, because Karna and Arjuna don't. Well, Karna knows at this point that he's Arjuna's brother, but Arjuna doesn't know. Of course, Krishna knows, and Karna knows, but Arjuna doesn't know, and most of the warriors don't know. There's like this understory going on. You know, and then Karna, his chariot gets in the mud and he loses his mantra knowledge, and there's all these things going on for Karna being killed. So I'd really like to see that. I'd really like to see Mahaprabhu dancing in 7 kirtan parties at the same time at the Rath Yatra. And that would be a really nice Leela to see. And where he's crying and the tears are shooting out of his eyes like a syringe. And wouldn't it be nice to see the Kurma Leela? So Kurma's just there in the ocean of milk, and the Mandara hill is scratching his back. Scratch, 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 scratch. And it's polishing all of his ornaments. So it says in the Bhagavatam, the Mandara hill is polishing his ornaments. All right, it'd be nice to see Krishna milking the cows. So there's a very nice description of Krishna milking the cows, how he's kneeling down with a gold pot between his knees, and the cows, they won't give their milk until Krishna comes. They won't even give their milk to the cows. They're waiting for Krishna. And as Krishna's milking the cow, he's leaning against the side of the cow, and as he leans against the side of the cow, he had his curls all up in his turban, so he had pushed his curls up and then put a turban. But as he's leaning, the turban gets knocked a little, and some of the curls come out. And then also as he's milking, the cow is licking him. Yes, and then some of the drops of the milk, they fall on his dhoti. And you know, if your clothes get wet, they become somewhat transparent. So the places where the milk is touched, you can sort of see Krishna's blue color a little bit through the cloth. So I would very much like to see that, and some others also, but these are some of my own favorite pastimes. So what I'd like everyone to do now is I'd like you to turn to the person next to you and tell them at least one, maybe 3 pastimes that you would like to see. So everybody please turn to the person next to you and tell them your favorite one, at least one, and up to 3 pastimes. Everyone. And if there's an odd number, you can make a group of 3. You can join another group. Or you can join you can join those ladies. And you in the back there also. Yes? You can talk to each other. And you. There you go. What about him? Can you include him in your group? Can you include this gentleman there? He's left out. Yes, you, right there. You're talking to him. Okay. Can you discuss with her? Already finished?
He listens to this part of the game. So Vishnu, how he transformed into
So again, the main thing that we want to start with is attachment. We are going to be absorbed wherever we are attached. We want to develop some emotional attachment to Krishna. And then I would suggest, either before you go to sleep to pick something or when you wake up in the morning, that something you're going to focus on during the day. So something about how Krishna is the light of the sun, he's our ability, he's the taste in water, he's the intelligence of the intelligent. The birds are his artistry, something in this world. And one of Krishna's names, one of Krishna's forms, one of Krishna's qualities that you're going to look for in the world. He's ever youthful. Notice how people who are youthful, they're attractive, they're energetic. And one pastime of Krishna, something that can remind you of that pastime. And in this way, gradually, you'll end up thinking more and more about Krishna. And then celebrate whatever time you think of Krishna. Don't lament whatever time you forget him. Celebrate when you remember him. It's much more effective. Oh, today, how much was I actually thinking about Krishna? Maybe I thought about Krishna for 5 minutes and then, wow, I thought about Krishna. Don't think, oh, I only thought about Krishna for 5 minutes. But I thought about Krishna for 5 minutes. Then maybe next day it can be, I thought about Krishna for 6 minutes. Then maybe next day you didn't think about him at all. Okay. The next day you tried something. Oh, next day was 2 minutes. Progress is not like this, my friends. Progress is like this. Celebrate whatever you're able to do. But make an effort. In all types of yoga, you have to make an effort. In bhakti, we're making an effort to become attached to our natural, original source of attachment. So questions, comments, additions, subtractions, corrections? Yes?
Krishna. You see, sometimes we think, and our parents also tell, that don't get absorbed in Krishna too much, otherwise you will forget to do your normal duties.
Well, the reason they're thinking that is because they're thinking of dhyan, gyan, and karma yoga type of samadhi. In those types of samadhi, you do lose all awareness of the outside world. So they're thinking of it as detachment instead of attachment. Now Arjuna also had this same problem. He thought that if I'm going to perform buddhi yoga, then that means that I'm going to go off the battlefield and sit and meditate. And Krishna said, Mama nusram yujacha, think of me while you're fighting. Think of me in your activities. Were you there when I talked about the secret agent principle? Yeah. You're going to be better in your worldly activities. You see, if I'm trying to be a good husband to please my wife, will I always please my wife? No. Sometimes you'll please her, sometimes you won't. Will you always please a husband? No. Maybe his favorite food is pizza, you know. So he comes home, you've made pizza. Oh, my favorite food. And then so you make it the next day. And he said, 2 days in a row, you're making the same thing. We're never going to be a perfect son, a perfect daughter, a perfect husband, perfect wife, perfect software engineer, perfect finance manager, perfect construction worker, perfect doctor, whatever it is. We're never going to be perfect at those things. And if we're trying to base our happiness on how much I can please people in this world independent of Krishna, please put your phones on silent. We're not going to be happy. As soon as our parents are displeased with us, or our spouse, or our children, or our boss, or our customers, or our patients, or whatever, then we're going to think, either we're going to get angry with them, oh, why don't you appreciate what I'm doing? I work so hard to make this pizza and you don't even care. So either we get angry at that person because they didn't certify that we were a good whatever, or we get angry at ourselves. Oh, I guess I wasn't such a good son. I didn't take proper care of. I should have been there for my father. I wasn't there. So that we're not going to be happy. But there is a person you can always please, and that's Krishna. I'm trying to take care of my mother, father, so Krishna will smile. I'm taking care of my wife, so Krishna will smile. It's not really my wife. This is a jiva who in this life is my wife, given to me by Krishna to take care of. I'm doing that as a service to Krishna. Then you're going to do it better. If you're a good, responsible person, then you're going to take better care of someone else's thing that you're borrowing than your own thing. Am I correct? If you're a good, responsible person, you'll be more careful. You'll be more careful driving someone else's car than your own car. Yes? You're going to be a better son, a better daughter, a better husband, better wife, better everything if you're not thinking, I am this thing, but this is my service. And Krishna is going to come and say, how did you do with this? There's a story in the Bible I really like that Jesus tells where he says the master had 3 servants and he gave one of them 10 coins, one of them 5 coins, one of them 1 coin. He said, I'm going to go away for a while. Please take care of my money. So the one who had 10 coins invested it, made 100 coins. The one who had 5 coins invested it, made 10 coins. The one who had 1 coin thought, oh, this is my master's coin, I don't want to lose it, and he buried it in the ground. And the master comes back, what did you do with my money? I increased it 10 times. Very good. I increased it double. Very good. I buried it in the ground. Give me back the coin. The ones who increased, he showered them with more increase. The one who buried, he took it away. Krishna's given you your job. Krishna's given you your talents. Krishna's given you your nature. Krishna's given you your family members. Krishna's given you the people you run into. We talked about this the other day. Everything is according to Krishna's plan, right? Many of you were there for that? Prabhupada's letter to Jagannatha Maharaj. Everything is according to Krishna's plan. Whatever is meant to be, I'm doing that. I am in the situation. Krishna's put me in this situation. Now I have some service to do. If you think of Krishna too much, you're going to become more expert, better, more attentive, more caring, and less affected by what goes on. If your wife says you're not a good husband, it's not going to hurt you so much. You're going to think, I'm not being a good husband to please you, my dear wife. I'm being a good husband to please Krishna. And Krishna knows that I'm trying my best. You may appreciate, you may not appreciate, but Krishna appreciates. And so it's not going to bother you so much. You'll be able to be steady in what you're doing. And everything's like that. And there'll be a certain point that Krishna says, now you have no more service to do in this world. Or now you have a different service. Like with Arjuna, then he got to the point he couldn't even string his bow. Yeah? Prabhupada said he didn't need that for going back to Godhead. So some of you may know Braj Bihari Prabhu, who works with Iskcon Resolve. So he lived for many years in Vrindavan, and he saw many devotees come there to die. And he talked about one lady who came to die, and she actually lived a lot longer than she thought she was going to live. But she was an artist. And she said as she gradually lost her physical abilities, that she said something very profound to him. She said, I've always been an artist for Krishna, but now I can't do any art anymore, so now it's only for Krishna. So someday, there will be a day that will come that Krishna will say, okay, no more software engineering, no more finance management, no more doctoring, no more taking care of children, no more taking care of spouse, done. That day will come. But as long as Krishna is saying, this is what I want you to do, then we do it for him. So people who say that, they don't understand that Bhakti Yoga is a yoga of attachment. It's personal. It's also, we also have detachment. But what are we getting detached from? From Ishwaraham, Maham Bhogi, Siddham, I'm the enjoyer. Ahankara, Kartaham iti manyate, I'm the doer. That's what we're getting detached from. I'm the enjoyer. Everyone should respect me and honor me. Treat me the way I want to be treated, and the whole world should work the way I want it to work. That's what we're getting detached from. Not from the work itself. Is that all right? Take maybe one more. Anybody else? Yes, Prabhu.
Right. You mentioned about celebrating our even for small achievements.
Yes, celebrating our small achievements.
But we normally tend to think about more what we have not accomplished.
I know. You know, first of all of us have to think a little of both. So, if we're only thinking of the positive, then we're going to do very risky, foolish things. If we're only thinking of negative, we will never get out of bed. And we'll need medication or something. And each of us has a tendency to be more negative or more positive. Some people are naturally more focused on the positive, some people are naturally more focused on the negative. And neither of those are good or bad. Like if you have a bridge inspector, you want that to be a person who focuses more on the negative. Correct? You don't want them to just say, oh, what a pretty bridge. You want them to find every possible fault in it. So each of us has a tendency kind of towards one or the other. When we are trying to motivate ourselves, the way psychology and motivation works, focusing on our accomplishments is a much more powerful, sustainable motivator than focusing on our failures. We can notice our failures, but when we notice our failures, it's good to talk to ourselves like we would talk to a friend. So generally we wouldn't go to a friend and say, you absolute stupid idiot, how could you possibly mess that up? I hope you don't talk that way to your friends. But we might talk that way to ourselves. Right? Yes? Now, the problem here is that we're also part of Krishna, and so we shouldn't actually treat ourselves poorly either. So we can also just say to ourselves, oops, hey, you messed that up, but that's okay. Everybody messes things up. Just let's see what we can learn from this. That's what you would say to a good friend, I hope. I hope you wouldn't tell your friend they're a terrible idiot. I hope not. If you would, you need to work on that. So just you'd go to a good friend and you'd say, right? Some time ago I was with a family and the wife smashed the door of the car. And the husband comes home. I was there, was visiting them. The husband comes home and he says, what happened to the car? Oh, so he didn't say, oh, you terrible person, you. I don't know why I ever married you. You're all useless. Get out of here. He just says, okay, well, we'll have to get it fixed. Try to be more careful, okay? That's it. So we can say that to ourselves too. Hey, Try to get that fixed and be more careful. But the main thing you want to celebrate is the wins. It's the main thing you want to celebrate. And the example I give it all the time, you must be tired, anyone who listens to my classes must be tired of hearing this from me, is children learning how to walk or learning how to talk. Because Srila Prabhupada compares bhakti to learning how to walk. That walking is inherent, but still you have to practice it. So many of you have children, and you saw your children learn how to walk. And we all learned how to walk. Children learn how to walk by celebrating what they do right and absolutely ignoring what they do wrong. They absolutely 100% ignore what they do wrong and 100% celebrate what they do right, and so does everyone else around them. As soon as the child stands up one time holding on to something, you take a picture, you take a video, you send it to all your family. They only stand up for 1 second, and then they fall down. And you don't say, well, you just fell down again. We'll just use that. Nobody says that. And the child gets so excited that they stood up for a second. And they take 1 step, 2 steps, and then they fall. And again, nobody says, stupid child. Why are you even bothering trying to learn how to walk? Like, what a useless, stupid waste of time. All you're doing is falling. Yeah, you take 1 step, like, big deal. Nobody thinks like that. Nobody. I mean, maybe if you're a demon, I don't know. But who thinks like this with their child? You take a video, you put it on social media. 2 steps! Woo! And with talking, we first talking, we say the words wrong. The child looks at Prabhupada and says, Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. And you don't go, that's not how you say it. You don't do that. You say, oh, she just said Prabhupada. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So that's how we're wired. And if you treat your spiritual life like that, see, we're afraid. Or if I treat my spiritual life like that, then maybe I'll get lazy. If I just celebrate the good things, maybe I won't improve. That's not true. And again, you can point out to yourself your mistakes, but kindly. But we're much more motivated by what we do right. And let me tell you something else too. This is about psychology. We all avoid things that make us feel bad. Okay? Everybody does. Everyone avoids things that make them feel bad. Okay? Got that? If you strongly associate guilt and shame with your spiritual practices, it'll make it harder and harder to do them. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
If you're chanting your japa and then you're thinking, I wasn't attentive enough, it was really spaced out, hardly heard any of my rounds today, then you're going to have a feeling, your body physiologically, psychologically, is going to associate that guilt and shame with japa. And it's going to be harder and harder and harder for you to want to chant and to enjoy chanting. So there was one gentleman who said to me, he said, every time I see some devotees, they say, are you chanting 16 rounds yet? Are you going to get initiated yet? And he said, I just feel bad. I just feel bad that I'm not able to chant 16 rounds. And I just feel so much shame. And I said, how much are you chanting? He said, I'm basically not chanting at all. Why? Because he was associating chanting with feeling ashamed. So I said, okay, what we're going to do is for the next 10 days, I want you to chant 2 rounds, and you're not allowed to chant more than 2 rounds. So why did I say that? Because that meant if he chanted 2 rounds, he was what? Successful. Before, if he chanted 2 rounds, he was a failure. Because he chanted only 2 rounds. But he wasn't chanting any rounds. So I said, let's chant 2 rounds, and you're not allowed more. I said, you can chant more all day, but you can't count them. You can only count 2 rounds, that's all. And then we made a little chart. Did you say the sankalpa? Were you attentive? The things that we wanted to look at. Okay? I said, then after 10 days, come back and we'll discuss. So after 10 days, we discussed, we adjusted the chart a little bit, and then we did it again. And then I discovered something. He said, you know, the only service I do for my wife is I make her chai every morning. And with chanting 2 rounds, and I was rushing through it, and I didn't like it. He said, so what I did was I started the chai, I started this part, then I chanted 1 round for 15 minutes. Then I did step 2 of the chai, then I chanted another round for 15 minutes, then I finished it, and I went, oh, that's why you can't chant 16 rounds. It's taking you 15 minutes a round. And I thought, no one ever asked him, how long is it taking you to chant? And I didn't ask that either. So then I said, you need to get down to 7 minutes. So we started working on speed. And still I said, only 2. So after about a month, I said, if you feel you can increase to 3, if you want to, you can now increase to 3. Then after like 6 weeks, he said, now I'm looking forward to chanting. Now I'm happy with chanting. Now I want to chant. He said, am I allowed to chant more now? You see, it completely reversed it. Completely reversed it. He started associating success, self-confidence, instead of failure. So I know this can be scary. We think we'll all become just lazy, useless people if we celebrate our small wins. But that's not how we are wired psychologically. We're wired to want to do more of whatever gives us pleasure and do less of whatever gives us pain. Okay? So if you go, I was attentive for 2 of my 16 rounds today, you're going to want to be more attentive next time. Whereas if you tell yourself, wow, for 14 of those rounds I was completely spaced out, then you're going to want to do it less. Does this make sense to everybody psychologically?
Yes.
Yes? It's kind of my thing, you know, I'm an educator, right?
It's helpful, Mataji. Sure.
So, sort of one of the main things that I've studied is what motivates people. How do people become motivated? How do people get initial motivation? How do people keep motivation? How do people get determination? All right, we should definitely end now. So thank you very much. Anything good here is from Prabhupada and our acharyas. The Shastra, anything bad here is from me. For any of my mistakes, please either correct them or ignore them, and I hope that you can take them. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Her Grace Urmila Mataji ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.